host, Ella Free. What is a whistleblower? A whistleblower is a person who makes public disclosures of wrongdoing, corruption, and crime. These courageous people often suffer retaliatory actions because of their disclosures. I'm here to celebrate these people and give them a platform because shining a light on wrongdoing wherever it occurs plays an important role in keeping society peaceful, free, and just. And today you guys have a very important show. With me I have Alfred Webre. Is it Weber or Webre? Alfred?
Yeah, sorry, I had my mute button on.
Oh,
It's
no
Weber.
problem. Weber. Okay, great. And so I have, he's he's an author, a communicator, a futurist. He's the founder of Exopolitics. He was also involved with Jimmy Carter's administration. He's a human rights advocate, and I know you're a very respected individual, and I know a lot of people in the station were very excited that you were coming on. So I just want to welcome you and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And I also have with me a dear friend. Also, she's a researcher and she's also a human rights activist. This is Midge Mathis. Would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Oh, hi, everyone. Thank you, Ella. Thank you for having me on. I'm a whistleblower to government corruption. And so because of that, I have faced all kinds of retaliatory backlashes and stuff. And so it's been quite horrendous for the last 3 years.
Yeah, so, we know how that goes. This is just something people, there's a lot of these type of things that happen with people that go out and try to share the truth. And this show is dedicated to Melanie and her child, and this is a very important topic. In case you guys don't know, Melanie is a targeted individual. And what that is, because I know we have people who are not familiar with that term, they are people who are illegally and covertly harassed, electronically harassed with weapons, sometimes abused, gang-stalked, and spied upon 24/7 by organized groups and persons. And, and the main reason why people do this to people is to discredit and to control targets, and the harassment and abuse is often set up by corporations, government, businesses, organized criminals, extremists, doctors, lawyers, or anyone basically that stands a chance of making money off a target or trying to control them. And so Melanie Vritschan is a wonderful woman who's done so much work fighting for human rights, and standing up to people who are experiencing these horrific crimes against humanity. And a little bit about Melanie. She's German and she lives in Brussels. During 2 decades, she has gained valuable experience in public relations and events management of international associations. Her former positions involved close cooperation with European institutions and organizations of numerous international conferences and trade shows. Melanie has a proven track record in working with high-level authorities such as the European Commission and the European Parliament. The organizations of network meetings, need assessment and implementation for particular client groups, as well as successfully carrying out pan-European projects with the aim of promoting international cooperation. She also, I know she also is a founder of, where is that on here? That's the most important thing to me. What is it ICATOR? Can you tell me, Alfred, what it is?
Yes, it's the acronym is ICATOR, ICATOR, and the website is icator.be, ICATOR.be, and that's an organization that Melanie has founded to pursue not only the rights of targeted individual, but also the rights of actually all humans to be free of remote directed energy weapons, which now, through discovery, we found there are organized programs which are funded by the NSA, the U.S. National Security Agency, which have deployed directed energy weapons that are manufactured, that are designed by DARPA, DARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency of the U.S. Department of Defense at the nano level, are manufactured by corporations such as Motorola and are being deployed and inserted into people through unlawful surgeries in places like the European Union in Brussels that occurred to Melanie through the suborning of the local officials, including the Brussels chief of police. And the reason why Melanie's case is so important and why she's such a powerful leader and individual is that she has brought a lawsuit to which I have submitted an affidavit along with a large number of people in which there is, we have forensic evidence where we've caught we've exposed the chief of police of Brussels and other officials who are part of the US CIA and NSA apparatus for attempting to, in effect, robotize the human population through these nano weapons that are the new, they are in direct violation of multiple treaties, of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, of the European Declaration of Human Rights, of other treaties, and it's an attempt by the darkest side of the military industrial complex to robotize humans, to make them into subhuman entities and puppets of a genocidal intelligence that is attempting to take over the planet at this time. These are not rhetorical words, rather they are words that are grounded in actual evidence that we've been able to uncover. Melanie's case is extraordinary because of her strength, and I would like to, in the course of the evening, just read the headlines over the years from our coverage of cases where Melanie has been central. Also, perhaps toward the end of the program, because I know that the hour is very late in Brussels now, I've had the privilege of having submitted from a person who's a great supporter of Melanie and of baby Amethyst that has brought us all here, and that is a minister and ambassador of children's rights of a nation. The nation prefers to be unnamed, who has submitted a statement in support of Melanie and Amethyst and children worldwide. And,
Alfred, do you think maybe because people don't know the story, should we share the story? Because it is unbelievable. It's one of the most horrific stories I've ever heard. So do you mind if we share that so they know why we're reading this letter? Okay,
sure.
We'll do the story together, and Midge, you too. This incredible woman who's been fighting for, this marginalized group of people and for human rights around the world. She was with child, and she, and I hope I have my facts straight, and we have Melanie on the line. She's, very fatigued. Obviously, she's been through so much emotionally, physically. She's still recovering. So she went to the hospital to have a child, and she was told she needed a C-section. And she had her dear friend with her, Miss Catherine Horton, who is a particle physicist who also speaks out. And she's quite a sensation on YouTube, speaking out on behalf of targeted individuals and victims of these covert crimes. And so, from what I understand, and maybe Alfred, I'll let you turn it over to you. I believe she was there concerned about Melanie and during the delivery process. And the midwife, is that the correct term?
Uh,
The
yeah,
person helping her, yeah,
right.
had, so Catherine had seen her breathing, hard, and was concerned because not that long ago she had a microchip removed. Do you want to go into that a little bit, Alfred? Because I know you know a little bit more about that than myself, because that's really extraordinary in itself.
Right, right. Um, yeah, yes. What I'd like to do actually, because I want to get the facts straight, and so I'm going to um, uh, read from read from the press release of the Joint Investigation Team, and we've been Melanie herself is a member of the Joint Investigation Team, as is Romola D and Dr. Catherine Horton. And so we've been very fortunate that the Joint Investigation Team has been involved in this case. And so through a team effort, we now have an accurate record, an actual factual record of this as this case moves forward now into the courts, and that is going to be very, very important, because I believe that Melanie and Amethyst together are going to bring down and deconstruct this horrible apparatus that
Mm-hmm.
the warfare state has been attempting to construct in Brussels, which, don't forget, is the capital of NATO, and in the European Union, to attempt to enslave humanity with directed energy weapons. So I'm just reading here from the latest press release of the Joint Investigation Team. Melanie Vritschan, the mother of newborn Amethyst Vritschan, Melanie was the founder of icator and a member of the Joint Investigation Team, was held for a week in the psychiatric ward of l'Hôpital Erasme in Brussels, Belgium, on wrongful charges of being delusional. Well, she was released from the hospital on court order after a court hearing on October 25th. And I believe if Melanie's on the line after I do this summary, perhaps she can come on and tell us more about that court hearing, and also how baby Amethyst is, because she's had the privilege, and I saw a few pictures of her with baby Amethyst today, how baby Amethyst is doing. However, baby Amethyst is still being held in the neonatal ward and has not been returned to her mother. On questioning the two psychiatrists present at the hearing, Ms. Vritschan was told this because of the previous court order from a different court, the youth tribunal, similar to the family court, which had separated the mother from the child and placed the child for 30 days in the neonatal care. Both actions, falsely naming Ms. Vritschan delusional and separating her newborn from her care one day after birth, as well as initiating a brutal detainment, transfer, and CIA rendition-style interrogation of Melanie Vritschan in another hospital across town past midnight, without recourse to pain medication for her, just as she was recovering from cesarean scars. So you can see that in the covert protocol, where you have this covert baby kidnapping protocol in place inside these hospitals, where they're really hunting for newborn babies, they have in place a CIA rendition style interrogation room, so that within hours of her cesarean, Melanie Vritschan was separated and was told with extreme fraud that her baby was looking, I believe, a yellow color, which she wasn't, and on the basis of that was taken from Melanie's care, and then Melanie was told that she had to be transferred to a psychiatric unit and out of maternity because of conversations, allegedly, that a nurse or other staff had with Dr. Catherine Horton. So all of this is taking place on hearsay and apparently on the basis of statements that Dr. Catherine Horton didn't even make. These are statements that were fabricated by the staff of the hospital. So you can see, yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to add a little bit. I just want to kind of interject here and there. So this was October 18th. You know, she went in to give birth to her child.
Yeah.
Catherine was having a conversation, was worried about, you know, her breathing and about the remaining microchip in her throat. And so because of that, they claim that there was a psychiatrist, and she was asleep. She was in the middle of surgery. And so they rip her baby from her, and she's still unconscious, and then she's thrown into a holding cell, like with a mattress on the ground. Is that true, Melanie?
Melanie, are you there? Hello, Melanie. I'm not sure.
She may actually have fallen. She may actually just be resting. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I'm not sure.
Melanie does appear to be here.
She may have just drifted off to sleep. This woman has been through so much, and this is just, you know, on the 18th.
I'll Skype her and just see her green light is on her Skype.
That's why I think she might have actually just, you know.
Yeah, because it is you know, 11:30 there, and she's very tired.
Yes, of course. So she's here. She's just, hopefully she's resting. So so this was just an atrocious story. So go ahead, Alfred. I'll let you get back to it. I just was trying to, in a nutshell, let people know what happened.
She was awake during all of this.
Oh, I see.
And what was happening, and the reason why what was played on her, I believe, is a covert pantomime, a protocol that the you know, you've heard of the Hunger Games. Well, inside the hospital, they play the baby games, whereby there's a covert unit that looks at babies that they can kidnap or snatch, and they look at mothers that are vulnerable, and there's reason to believe that Melanie Vritschan was targeted. And the reason that we say that is that now we have multiple witnesses, including Dr. Catherine Horton, and all of this is now being gathered and will go into the ongoing lawsuits and an action that is now being prepared in, I guess, in U.S. courts, you would call it habeas corpus, that would go into Belgian courts and say, you have no grounds to hold baby Amethyst anymore, because when the maternity ward transferred Melanie without any basis out of the hospital to the psychiatric ward, even after the interrogation and the CIA rendition center. The psychiatrist that saw her said, "You are fine," and he ordered her that she be transferred back to the maternity ward. And then there was a period where orders came down on high, we believe from the State Attorney General of Belgium, that ordered her back to the psychiatric ward and not to that countermanded the psychiatrist's orders that she be sent back to, that countermanded that psychiatrist's order, saying there is no psychiatric diagnosis here. She belongs in the maternity ward. And there was a countermanding order, we believe, that came down from the State Attorney General's office, countermanding a valid medical diagnosis. So that's why we see that there is the action of a covert machinery inside the hospital that we call the baby game or the baby kidnapping game, in which there are these secret protocols and in which the hospital personnel that are enrolled in this or that participate in this invent dialogue. They invented dialogue that Dr. Catherine Horton had allegedly said, which Dr. Horton denies having said this. And on the basis of those invented statements, then invented this whole alleged basis that was the alleged basis for the transfer out of the maternity ward to the psychiatric ward, to the CIA rendition center in the first place. So their attempted scenario was probably to break Ms. Vritschan's will and psyche in the psychiatric, in the CIA rendition center and the interrogation style. But they were not able to do that because of her strength of character and integrity. And so, therefore, we find ourselves here now because of her strength of character and integrity. And the fact, that now Melanie was released at the October 25th hearing by a different judge. The original judge was replaced. And B, now that that a different judge then came in and has modified the order so that Melanie can visit Amethyst several times a week for 1 hour at a time. It shows that the hospital and the covert baby kidnapping apparatus within the hospital, which leads up to the State Attorney General, has taken notice that this has become a widely known case, and they're starting to back off and adjust. And so we're beginning to get different results. And now Melanie is currently seeking to get Amethyst back to her care immediately and looking at her legal options in terms of bringing what would amount to an immediate habeas corpus to a court that's independent of any legal institution in the hospital. Now, we have had a lot of people in Belgium at a high level help us, and they've been searching lawyers, and the legal industry in Belgium is very tight-fisted, and they're demanding 2,000 euros before they will move. And that's what's true. They aren't moved by cases like this. They say, no, we want our 150 euros an hour, and it's 2,000 hours, 2,000 euros down payment. A euro is about $1.20, so you're talking about $2,500. So what Melanie has done is to set up a crowdfunding, a GoFundMe. And so those who are listening, one of the main reasons or outcomes that she is hoping, and all of us are hoping from this program and others like it, is that if people who are listening here could go to the website, and that's icator.be. And that's the main website. And if you go there, there's a tab at the top menu, and it says GoFundMe. And you click on that, and then there's a whole description that lists there the GoFundMe campaign for baby Amethyst. And the goal there is for 2,000 euros, $2,500, which will be the legal expenses for the emergency habeas corpus to get Amethyst Vritschan, who has now been sentenced to 30 days inside the hospital. The danger of that is that they'll implant Amethyst Vritschan with the same implants that they implanted Melanie Vritschan while she's in there, or subject her to trauma-based mind control. With babies, they'll just do that. So, luckily, Amethyst has a mother who has a tremendous, indefatigable will. So I would just urge listeners really to go to that website, icator.be, and look at that, because this case and these two individuals, a mother and a baby, really are doing the humanity a service by the trauma that they're going in, and by their survival through sheer will, and by waking up the world to what's going on here.
And I wanted to say too, Alfred, that it's just so important. The bonding between a newborn baby and the mother is so instrumental to how that baby is going to respond to stimuli for the rest of their lives, and they need that comfort from the mother. So the sooner, any woman out there, any man, can you imagine your wife or your mother or a woman not having her baby for a month after she's been so traumatized and thrown into holding cells and thrown into a psychiatric, and I don't even believe she even said anything. I don't think it was more of a conversation with her dear friend who was concerned for her, Dr. Catherine Horton. So, just imagine how this poor woman, this amazing woman who has put up a fight, you guys don't even know, you're not familiar with her, like she's we're all a part of the same collective group of human rights activists who are trying to deal with these crazy, insane crimes of covert harassment and retaliation for all these wonderful people who speak out. And she's just such a hero in the community. And then, she doesn't have her own baby. So I just say, put yourself in her shoes. If you're a woman, just imagine if someone was keeping your newborn baby from you. And so that's why I'm speaking on my other podcast. I'm speaking to everybody, anybody who's related to these topics, even people that aren't on related to these topics, because this is this is a gross violation, and this is illegal what's happened, and even just like $5, $5, if you can pitch in $5, it can add up, because there's a lot of people listening. There's a lot of people listening on my other podcasts as well, and I know that Alfred has been tireless in trying to help Melanie. I know, Alfred, you've been having your podcast, you've been on other podcasts, and you're very passionate about this as well. We want the mother and the child to be reunited, and I hope there's some serious litigation, and I hope Melanie seeks some, goes to court over how she was treated and what's been done to her, and I just pray that her baby is not being traumatized and not going through some kind of MK Ultra situation, and I pray that, that this, the bottom line is, whether they're doing something to this infant or not, we need to get the mother and the baby back together as soon as possible. And so I'm just begging everybody to just contribute like $5, $10, $15, whatever you can afford, because if somebody ever needed help like that in the future, I would be there to back them up as well and try to help them.
Thank you.
Can I say anything?
Oh, sure, go ahead. Sure, Midge, go ahead.
Hi, Alfred, this is Midge. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I cannot imagine anything more brutal. I have also worked at behavioral health for 2 different governors for the state of Arizona as the public sector. I have been an advocate also at major hospitals here. So my job is to protect the public. And this is the most brutal case I cannot imagine. This is incredible. My heart goes out to Melanie, but I wanted to ask you, this was a scheduled C-section. Was there a medical reason why they decided to do a C-section rather than normal birth? Because it sounds like this was a setup from the get-go.
Gee, that's a very good observation. It was scheduled for October 18th. I know that we at News Inside Out did did an interview with Melanie Vritschan and with Dr. Catherine Horton at the beginning of October, prior to the C-section. I didn't bring that question up. I don't have enough. I don't know the answer to that, and we don't have Melanie present at this time, so I couldn't give you an accurate answer. But I think that there have been repeated observations by people within the support team that believe that this was a setup, because it goes straight up to the Attorney General of Belgium, and because they seem to operate with a freedom of abandonment that was just amazing, because they had almost immediate transfer of Melanie to a CIA rendition type center. I mean, when does that happen? And it's like they had 3 psychiatrists at the hospital where Melanie was in the maternity ward, all of a sudden assembled and creating this false diagnosis, where she had to, on an emergency basis, being transferred out of the maternity ward in the middle of the night, within hours of having given birth, on an emergency basis, in the middle of the night, transferred without painkillers, in the middle of the night, transferred to a CIA rendition center. Now, I am not a physician, I'm a lawyer, but let me tell you, I was administrator of the Brownsville Community Health Center, which is the federally qualified community health center in Brownsville, Texas. I oversaw, along with my co-administrator, 25 physicians, 120 nurses, and 90,000 patient encounters a year, most of whom were Hispanic Americans. Now, and I know a great deal about. I have a degree, a certification from the Harvard School of Public Health, and I know a great deal about hospital administration. And this was during the 1990s through 1997, when my wife and I decided to return to Canada. Now, in my judgment as a judge on the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal, as a former on the faculty, as a teacher of law at Yale, as a adjunct professor of law at the University of Texas in constitutional law, as a former lawyer for the New York Civil Liberties Law Union, going back to the Panther 21 trial in 1969. I believe that this is a crime against humanity and a war crime for which not only the hospital, but the Attorney General of Belgium, at a minimum, should be held accountable, and may be held accountable by the evidence, by the emails that we have, and by the eyewitness testimony that we have. And now even the legal fraternity won't move without 2,000 euros. Well, that's what we're here for, to get the 2,000 euros. Because we have all the evidence. We have them dead to rights. I'll tell you that. And, what I'd like to do here is, let me just take a moment, and what I'd like to do is just go here and bring up just the headlines. The headlines going back over several years of the stories, of the news articles that News Inside Out, just covering Melanie Vritschan, so you can see how this leader, okay, this is the most recent headline. I mean, this is so you can see. This is October 30th, 2017. Melanie Vritschan seeks freedom for baby Amethyst Vritschan and exposes Belgian psychiatrists. That's what she's done. She's busted Belgian psychiatrists. There are 3 Belgian psychiatrists in that hospital who, in any court of law, they would lose their licenses for what they've done. That's what's true. And I say that as a former administrator of a federally qualified community health center in Brownsville, Texas. And I've been to all, I've attended, this was during the Clinton administration. I attended all of the meetings in Washington, D.C. with the Surgeon General. I know backwards and forwards all the qualifications, what these guys have to stand up to, everything. Next headline: renowned human rights advocate Melanie Vritschan's newborn baby medically kidnapped by Brussels Hospital Erasmus under false psychiatric charges. This is what they're doing, not only to Melanie, but to thousands of people. People are being incarcerated under false psychiatric charges now. If you're deemed to be an activist, or you're politically aware or whatever, suddenly you're psychiatric. That's what they did in the Soviet Union. So what they've done is that they've imported communism in the Soviet Union to Western democracies. And that's what's going on at the deeper level. Okay, Dr. Catherine Horton on DEW directed energy weapons and Melanie Vritschan's successful removal of forensic evidence of an electronic torture and robotization weapon. There we have the photo, the JPEG. This was published October 17, 2017, the day before the C-section, and we published a photo of which Dr. Horton examined in her physics lab, of the DARPA design. This is U.S. Department of Defense with U.S. tax dollars, manufactured by Motorola. Motorola. This is what the United States as a society is doing. They're going around the world and putting these weapons, which are 1 inch by 1 inch by half an inch. That's what Melanie Vritschan, a wonderful German citizen doing her work at the European Space Agency in Brussels, had inserted in her throat by some Belgian thug working for the Americans. That's the truth of what Americans are doing. That's the truth of what Americans are doing. I mean, I've only read 4 headlines, and there are about 20. So I just want to pause here before going on for any comment. Hello?
Well, what is also astounding, Alfred, is that they went from treating Melanie as a patient and a new mother to treating her like a criminal.
Exactly.
Yes, I mean, wasn't even treated decently. I mean, it was so brutal, but I mean, wasn't even treated like a psych patient. She was treated like a criminal, and she had done nothing. This is what is so disturbing. And then to think that they have the right to rip that baby away from her and to keep that baby. I just can't get over it. This is just so outrageous and stuff. But I want to know, are there any advocates advocating for patients in that area on the government level as well as in the hospital? Because that is exactly what I used to do.
Yeah.
And so where are they? Where are they advocating for the public?
Yeah, well, that's a key question. There is, there is a patient, quote, patient advocate at the hospital. There is administrator at the hospital. Did the patient advocate do anything in this case, despite multiple attempts to contact that said patient advocate? The answer is no. Did the administrator do anything in this case, despite multiple attempts to contact the administrator? The answer is no. So that you have a medical industry, a hospital that is part of the medical industry that is committing wholesale misdiagnosis, wholesale malpractice, wholesale criminal fraud, and wholesale collaboration with a CIA rendition type program. That is a political science fact which Melanie Vritschan's case has brought to the surface. And that's why the American NSA, CIA, DARPA presence, the Belgian police, the Belgian Attorney General, the hospital, are all trying to bury a mother and her child. Isn't that classic? Isn't that a story that has gone on for thousands of years?
Right.
Yes.
Well, we need to make some noise. I mean, this is just so outrageous. And so, this is something that, we need to keep it out there in the public eye so it can get some notice. I mean, I can't get over what has happened.
I do know one thing, Midge, and you probably know this from working in that field, is that I don't even know if that would happen in the States. Maybe it would. I mean, I know it's things like that have happened, actually. But I think people are a little more scared of litigation. I think people are a little more careful here in the States. I don't know. I know, my family is European as well. So it seems like in some ways they can get away with a little bit more. Am I wrong about that, Alfred? Do you know?
Well, I think that you're right. I think that in the States we still have a bit of freedoms, although the gap is closing, I have to say. So we have to keep up our guard. I just have to bring this up because it's like, what do they call that? I don't want to use the word elephants because they always say it's the elephant in the living room, and it seems
Right.
like we're beating up elephants. The elephant in the living room about Belgium, it's that it's the pedophilia capital of the world.
I heard that.
And you have, and I'm going to tell stories out of, you can go to News Inside Out and you can see that we have been covering and exposing the pedocriminal circles and the pedocriminal organizations now for a whole number of years. And these are principally focused in the Vatican, Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Central Intelligence Agency. And then they're focused in governments, churches, finances, police departments, and schools. And it's the CIA that really, and ever since this goes very, very deep, because it all started or it went into acceleration when President Eisenhower signed the Greada Treaty in 1954. And we're trying to get that treaty abrogated, but that's a whole other deeper story. So the problem with Belgium is that the whole society from the top on down, from the king to the parliament on down, and to the judges and to the lawyers and to the bankers, the kind of glue that keeps that society, which is very male and very pyramidal, together, is that they're kept together by pedocriminal networks. And you can go to newsinsideout.com and you will see all of that documented by eyewitnesses. We have eyewitnesses that have come forward that are survivors of the human hunting parties there, where they will go and they will have this happens in the country north. They will have the Dutch royal family will have its kind of royal hunting place surrounded by Dutch soldiers, and then they will bring children, young adolescents, from the halfway houses and the prisons and let them go in there, and then they have human hunting parties where they hunt the young men and women like you would hunt deer. And then they, at the end of it, they put the private, in the same way that you put the antlers of the deer up on the wall, they put the private parts of the humans, the young children that they've slaughtered, up on the wall. And these are customs that, there's also, you can go very, very deep into it as to why they do it. They think that they're communing with spirits, diabolical spirits that keep them in power, and that they're taking over the souls of these individuals, and that's why they're into pedophilia. But this Belgium, the Netherlands, the UK with Queen Elizabeth, etc., they're all known as the black nobilities, and the Vatican along with it. And this is all documented. So we're dealing with deep social pathologies here. And I can say that I know it very, very well. In 1968, I'll give my own personal testimony. In 1968, I was awarded, after I graduated from Yale Law School in 1967, I was awarded a Fulbright scholarship to Montevideo, Uruguay in economics. So I went down there. My friend, my Yale undergraduate classmate, J. Douglas Knott, was awarded a scholarship I think it was a Rotary Club scholarship to Rio. So at carnival time in Rio, we were just, graduates at that level. He said, hey, come on up to Rio for carnival. So I said, sure, it's just the next country over. And I came up to Rio for carnival, and which I thought was great. And we were there having a great time. And then it turns out that the producers of the film Black Orpheus, I'm not sure it's a classic film. Some of you may have seen that. It's a film based on the classical story of Eurydice and Orpheus, where Orpheus goes down into hell to rescue Eurydice, but it's set in the Brazilian carnival. So the Bourbon Princess of Paris, who's an actual person, she's a Bourbon and she's the Princess of Paris. I guess would have been the heiress to the French throne, except for the revolution, the French Revolution that they had. Brought over a plane load of the producers of that classical film to have a good time at the carnival. And in the carnival, back at that time, it was like just a big party and everybody met. Well, I happened to end up meeting all those people, and I happened to be in the back of a truck having a good time next to the Princess of Paris. So I got to meet her, and she invited me over to go over to her palace in Paris and spend some time with the Princess of Paris. Okay, and everybody said, oh, blah, blah, blah. And so years later, when I was studying all of the pedophilia stuff, it turns out that the Princess of Paris, they did a royal match and a royal marriage, and the King of Belgium then was matched to the Princess of Paris, and they married the King of Belgium off to the Princess of Paris. And then when all the pedophilia came down and it was discovered that the King of Belgium was a pedophile, at the top of this, the Princess of Paris, to save some face, I guess to say that, well, it's him, not me, somehow in one interview kind of went public and said, it's such a shame, but he has this problem, And I said, oh my God, that's the Princess of Paris. That's the person that I, hung out with in the back of a truck at the Brazilian Carnival way back in 1968. It's a real person,
Yeah. Just a heads up, Alfred, we're going to go to a break here fairly soon, but we'll carry on, and just wanted to give you a little notice there.
Yeah.
It's coming up. So that's interesting. So you had known him from before. You'd met this person years prior.
Yeah, because you read these things and they're removed. Since I don't hang out with Bourbons, normally, but here I happen to meet a Bourbon who happened to marry the King of Belgium, who was a known pedophile, and she made a public admission against interest, as we say in the law, publicly, that was published. So I'm just offering that in my capacity as a judge to say, I know this person who made an admission against interest against her husband and she's the Queen of Belgium. And I know her personally.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just, once you start looking, you start seeing everything going on around you. It's just so, it is, I'm still learning, as much as I've learned since I woke up in 2003, you're teaching me more today, and you're teaching the listeners, and, I'm going to do research on my own on this area as well. So I just thank you for being a truth teller and sharing what you've learned after all these years in your research and in your studies. So,
yeah.
A warrior. We need more people like you. I'm serious. It's being a targeted person and, faced, unbelievable amounts of persecution and stuff. We need more like you.
Well,
to
thank
help
you.
us.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much, for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when we get back,
Bless
maybe, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
Midge. And when we get back from the break, maybe
The
you can
break
go
is
into.
on the air.
Oh, there we go. It's weird not hearing it.
I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber, and this is a reading from Quotations from Minister and Ambassador of Children's Rights of a Nation, as read on November 3rd, 2017, on Revolution Radio in a program on Whistleblower Radio honoring Melanie and Amethyst Vritschan, with thanks to host Irely. Quotations from Minister and Ambassador of Children's Rights of a Nation. It is my opinion that the rights of a child are primary in consideration of the family structure. The term family is described as a natural or biological mother and father and child. The structure exists whether the three are living together or apart. A child is the most vulnerable person as per their lack of experience, lack of physical and mental development, lack of skill sets for survival, and lack of ability to function independently. The following is a proposition of the two primary rights of a child at the international level for a proposed convention for The Hague. In the following written proposal, the term parent is defined as a natural or biological parent to a child. Number one, the primary right of a child is the right to be raised by their parents. When this right is deemed beyond a reasonable doubt not to be possible to honor due to imminent threat of mental or physical harm from a parent, the child is provided with the right to have as close of a relationship as possible with the full continuity with that parent, with the minimal intrusion as possible to ensure that there is no possibility of mental or physical harm. To effect this primary right, resources shall be dispersed and appropriate steps taken by persons of professional certification with pure ethical direction to ensure that a child is raised by their parents. Such resources include, but are not limited to, professional care for the parents to overcome any disease that precludes the parent from delivering their full potential of care. The term disease is defined as lack of ease or difficulty. Implementation of every possible resource by the country, nation, tribe, or community to assist the parent to deliver their full potential of care. Financial assistance to the parent such that the quality of food, residence, and all other care is not compromised. Resources and funds available to ensure a child of a parent who has been deemed to pose an imminent threat to the child's mental and physical well-being beyond a reasonable doubt that enable the child to have as close of a relationship as possible with no limitations to the amount of child time and parent are together. A reasonable period of time and resources provided to reevaluate a parent who has been deemed beyond a reasonable doubt by professional certified persons with pure ethical direction to pose an imminent threat of mental or physical harm, still with supervised contact. It is the right of the child that resources and funding be provided to allow for the parent to have the opportunity for rehabilitation during this reasonable period of time. It is the right of the child that there be no limitation to the number of periods of time that are provided for the parent to rehabilitate to a condition to deliver their full potential of care. A child has the right to be protected from mental and physical harm. There is a plurality of sources of mental and physical harm. There is a distinction between the probability and degree of each source. Such sources include, but are not limited to, bullying from other children, bullying from adults, the separation or elimination of a parent from the life of a child, parental alienation, pedophilia and molestation from other children or adults, physical abuse and mental abuse, environmental disaster, exposure to military combat in physical or mental weapons. There is a crisis in the current Western world that appears to be orchestrated from the child welfare systems. Child welfare and protection systems are operating in a manner as to recognize one right of a child to be honored in a rare circumstance. This circumstance is one in which it is deemed by professional certified persons beyond a reasonable doubt that a parent poses an imminent threat of physical or mental harm to the degree that no contact can be safely implemented with all resources, to include professional supervision. While this situation is a real possibility, it is rare as per the natural instincts of a parent, which are to protect, elicit development, and nurture their child. Global research clearly shows it is not possible to synthesize the pure protection, elicitation of development, and nurturing from a parent. The requirement to cease all contact between child and parent is very rare, as per the high standards of responsibility provided by this convention to honor the primary right of the child to be raised by her natural parents, and as per the natural instincts of a parent to be the only and best person to protect, elicit development, and nurture a child. The above being the case, why is there a massive ideology being marketed and promoted through such means as propaganda that defines there to be one threat to a child's protection, and that the source of this threat is the parent of the child? Why are there a massive number of child protection systems that are corporations established and operating for the sole purpose of separating children and parents permanently at an accelerated rate? In 2015, it was reported by a reliable and ethical source under the employment of the Ontario government, a province in Canada, that over 30,000 children were taken into the status of Crown wards in the province of Ontario. Why was it that this natural person who acted as this source was removed from their position the following fiscal year? My research shows that child protection services do not deliver any other service than separation of children from a parent. There are no services available for honoring any other right of the child. My research shows that psychological manipulation techniques are being applied to employees of the child agencies to believe that parents pose the only danger to children, and that this danger is at a voluminous level. My research shows that psychological manipulation techniques are being applied to foster parents that romanticizes the concept of acquiring a child into their care and compares the foster parent waiting for notification that a child has been apprehended by the state to the romantic time of being a pregnant mother. My research shows that psychological manipulation techniques are being applied to the public to believe that the parents pose the most prominent threat of physical and mental harm, and to understand children to belong to the state. My research shows that psychological manipulation techniques are being deployed on parents that cause parents to question their identities as parents and abilities as competent and safe persons. Such tactics include, but are not limited to, psychological terror, torture, gaslighting, segregation, and deprivation. My research shows that psychological manipulation techniques are being deployed on children in state foster care custody that include, but are not limited to, induction of Stockholm Syndrome and belief of abandonment from parents, as well as medication enforcement to subdue children to conformity and compliance. These enforced messages are in line with the provision in Agenda 21 and Agenda 20 to 30 for all children to be raised by the state. Could it be possible that child welfare agencies are operating according to a mandate different from honoring the rights of a child? Could it be possible that the child welfare agencies are operating according to a mandate that elicits gain to the corporation of the state and for fulfilling the mandate of Agendas 21 and 20 to 30? Could it be possible that the child welfare agencies are violating two significant rights of the child? A, the dishonoring of the child's right to be raised by and cared for by their parents, and therefore denial of receipt of the non-replicated natural protection, elicitation of development and nurturing from a parent. And B, causing mental harm to the child by eliciting severe irreversible trauma to the child by being separated from their natural parent. I suggest that the public consider the above model for these two fundamental rights of a child and compare the description I have provided with the writing provided in written form, both of the municipal or local child protection and welfare legislation, and that at the international level, as written in the United Nations Convention for the Rights of the Child. In order to extend my efforts of communication to a wider range of audience, I ask that people consider that films have replaced written literature, which was typically written for purposes of teaching lessons of humanity. The following films are ones which the screenwriter delivers important insight and teaching into pro-humanity and attempts to expose by mirroring the reality of what is taking place in global society. Number 1, The Hunger Games. Number 2, The Starving Games, a comical spoof of number 1, The Hunger Games. 3, The Kingsmen. 4, Star Wars. 5, The Dictator. 6, The Island. 7, The Matrix. 8, An American Affair. 9, A Grand Affair. 10, A Royal Affair. For the purposes of reaching an extended audience, the speaker may also be named as the Mockingjay, as she has experienced all aspects of the quote arena and communicates and teaches this wisdom with the marriage of professional and personal experience. Thank you. This has been quotations from a minister and ambassador of children's rights of a nation, as read on November 3rd, 2017, on Revolution Radio in a program honoring Melanie and Amethyst Vritschan. I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber. Thank you.